They haven't snared one of them. Get them, get them. They've got them both ensnared. That ensnare is crazy.
Yeah, it is. Left.
I ensnared him. It's taking some damage, like, I can't imagine he's going to be around longer.
Get him, boys, get him. Get
Yeah, killed him with my skill. Right, you ready for some heals, boys? Efficient's coming in. Team efficient, how awesome's that? You can't kill me, bitch. But I can kill you.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Jody Smoke, the Mad Scientist. We're back again with more Division 2 content that's cut from a different cloth. Please like and subscribe, check out my channel, and I hope you enjoy it. Please send your feedback. Today we've got a build that I think tackles the biggest issues that a skilled player is going to face. I mean, you've got to consider survivability and tankiness, because any 6 skill tier build, which you pretty much need to run if you want to be an effective skilled player, is going to suffer from the lack of armor that you do have. And any stacking and healing or healing properties that you do need to do, you are going to sacrifice the skill damage or status effect or skill haste or whatever you're trying to utilize inside this build. And secondly, I mean, you've got to consider the ability as a skill player to deal effective weapon damage. With weapons, I mean, normally you shoot like a potato when you run a skill build, and if you synergize talents like Spark or Perfect Spark that are going to boost your weapon damage, you do lose a bit of something else, and you do need to kind of focus going down that route. And it is, I don't think, too beneficial. I have tried it a few times to stack some reds and maybe a China Light and a grouper and kind of make a weapon damage explosive skill build, but you do lose a lot in the skill tiers, which is why I think it's very difficult as a person to deal damage as a skilled player. So one thing you do need to do, you need to maximize your ability to deal damage, and also maximize the amount of incoming damage that you're not receiving. Sorry, minimize the amount of incoming damage you're receiving. And I think this build does that with their ability to shoot them with a riot form and move in and out of cover without them pushing you, giving you a bit of extra time to react. And as you see in there, pop a medkit. And I mean, finally, I think which is probably the biggest flaw of a skilled player is his ability to be effective around one specific ability, such as damage, status, or healing. I think the best skilled player is a skilled player who can utilize all these and be effective in all situations and can provide more of an all-around support for your team, and I do think you achieve that with this build. All of these issues, in my honest opinion, are the downfall of any skilled player in the build game at the minute, and it probably will be the case in the future because of the necessity of rolling skill slots and skill attributes into your builds to be a most effective skill dealer. I think otherwise, even at a skill tier 5, you do lose massive damage or status on your skills, and I don't think you can be as effective in 1v1 situation because of this, because you need to maximize the amount of damage or status you can deal to ensure that you stay alive for longer. I mean, this build is going to be TU10 ready. As any loss in status damage over time that you may face, it's going to be matched by the increase in weapon damage that you're going to get in such weapons that will run into the Super 90, and also the time to kill is going to increase. It's going to make you a little bit more tankier, and it's going to allow you to be a bit more effective, especially with your riot form, because you do have such small cooldowns on them. And I think the skill damage is going to probably get a little bit of buff as well, and with the extra weapon damage and skill damage buff that you're getting, I think it's going to negate any loss of damage over time. And because you've rolled so much status, I don't think they're going to kill damage over time on the burn and bleed, so I still think you will be able to deal effective damage in the long run with these effects applying. And I think because we're relying on riot form so much, it's almost guaranteed to be as effective in PvP now as it is in the future. Probably even more effective in a situation like this when you are relying on your weapons to deal damage. With regards to the build, the efficient and also the survivalist is going to allow you to pretty much face tank anyone for 5 seconds. This is going to allow you to get in close and clutch situations or run away and effectively pop a skill and help you get that final kill or get you round the corner so you can pop another armor kit and rinse and repeat the process. It's also going to apply this buff to your whole team, and incoming repairs is also going to stack on top of this. So any player running incoming repairs in the team is going to benefit greater from this, and because you're getting 15% outgoing healing from survivalists, you're also boosting their heals. And I mean, they're going to be pretty much tanky. Any teammate within 20 meters is going to be as tanky and invulnerable as you, if not more so, especially if they are stacking, as I said, armor talents. And it's going to make pretty much your team invulnerable for 5 seconds in push situations. It's going to allow you to get that advantage, especially because you're a support class, and you're going to be able to ride form people and drop your Stinger Hive. And it's just going to absolutely melt teams, as you have seen in the video there. It's also going to allow you to overcharge for 15 seconds on every minute, which can be super clutch because the massive radius you get from the ride form allows you to hit the whole team as well as the Stinger Hive, and you can drop them both in unison as well, and they synergize quite well to ensure that the enemies get stuck inside the radius of your Stinger Hive and you can continue to deal damage. And your team also can deal damage at this time and not worry about accuracy because they're stationary targets. On top of that, you're going to be able to use this when you need it most. So when you're getting pushed by a team or you want to push, or when you're at your weakest. You're going to have enough stats to deal massive damage over time, so anyone trying to run around the corner and pop a medkit's hopefully going to die. You're still going to be able to pack an instant punch because you are running 6 yellows, so you are going to have a massive amount of skill damage, and any encounter is going to feel more one-sided if you do have this build in your group. Your primary role is to maximise your team's damage window by ensnaring your enemies for huge durations, whilst providing heals for a push and also a bit of damage and support damage and damage over time to ensure that your team, if they don't mop up, you can kill any other remaining enemies before they can pop an armor kit or retreat. Your primary role is going to be to maximise your team's damage window, as I said, but due to the nature of the build and the weapons we're utilising, you should still have enough firepower to dish out those killer blows in 1v1 situations, especially if you can shoot your foam, drop your Stinger Hive, jump over into cover, or jump around behind them, and if they do make the mistake in not releasing the foam, and they decide to try and shoot your face on, they do get them extra seconds where they're going to have to hold square. This is going to allow you to jump in close, switch to your Optimist, your Banshee, and just deal out huge damage. And it also is effective at trapping people, as you can see here, even from range. So this build is effective at short and long range. And as you see in there, I mean, that guy didn't have any chance at all. I trapped him with a foam and then just continued to do it, continued to throw grenades at him, and I have been using this effectively. And I mean, as you see there, look, it's given me team an opportunity to flank around him so we can't see it and get beyond that shield. So it does have massive advantages, this riot form. And as we see here, the amount of healing, it's pretty much healed our full team. Obviously that guy's down, but he's still going to receive the benefit of the armor when he does get revived. But I mean, that's pretty much it for the talk about skills and why I think this build's so effective. If you do want to jump over to the build, I know it is a long one and I do appreciate your patience for everyone who's watched this far, and I hope I've given you some food for thought with regards to skills. If you don't want to watch the rest of the gameplay footage, jump over to 30 minutes and 22 and you can get straight into the build. Thank you very much.
Rogue fixer drone detected. Rogue seeker mine detected.
I'm sending you a specialization supply drop.
Rogue Stinger Hive detected. Seeker mine detected. Rogue defender drone detected. Agent down. Agent down. Rogue Stinger hive detected.
I'm sending you a specialization supply drop.
Straight in with the build we're going to talk about first, the survivalist specialisation that we're using. We're using this mainly for the med kits, which is going to heal your teammates within 20 meters. We're pairing this off with the efficient, which is going to give you 100% specialisation bonus on the armor kit. So it's in effect of 2 med kits or 2 armor kits is what you're giving to your team. And of course incoming repairs is going to stack on top of it, so any teammate with incoming repairs is going to receive this benefit further, and it's going to make them just as tanky as they would be if they were using efficient themselves. And of course, as I said, this will apply to yourself and the whole team. You won't get the 15% outgoing healing that survivalist does give you, which is what makes it even efficient even better. You won't receive that benefit, but of course, as you see in the video, you are still quite tanky with this. Now for the backpack, we are using Energize. Energize is going to give you a skill tier, which of course for us will be Overcharge. We're going to get Overcharge for 15 seconds on every minute, and of course the way that efficient works with 50% armor kits, we're going to get an extra chance to keep popping this. But of course you can either do it every 15 seconds per minute, providing that you've obviously taken a little bit of damage. But what I would normally suggest I would do with this, I would keep Energized for when you need it most. So maybe if you just finally first meet your first encounter, you take a bit of damage, your teammate takes the damage, you're having a bit of a situation and you decide you want to push, that's when you would pop your armor kit, you would grant Overcharge, and it would overcharge the rest of your team's heals. You would all charge in while you are pretty much invulnerable, and as I said, people with true period and stacking income repairs are going to be even more effective with this build. It's going to allow you to push for 5 seconds. You're going to have the Overcharge for 15. It's going to allow you to get in there with that massive radius, foam trap everybody in the room, then you can just drop your Stinger hive, your whole team can retreat to behind them. Because they're going to have to spend at least 2 to 3 seconds to release the foam, and they can't of course turn around when the foam is in duration. So if they do decide and make that mistake of trying to shoot you, you're going to run past them and they're going to have to spend that extra time to release the foam. It's going to give you and your team more than enough time to shoot them from behind without getting fired back on, and you're going to get that Overcharge skill as well. If they do manage to pop it and get away, you've applied that bleed damage over time and you've still got charges on your foam to retrap them, and you can just rinse and repeat this process and you can just keep trapping them into corners, full teams, especially when you are overcharged, which is why I'm using Energized as opposed to some other kind of talent. So I think it synergizes well with efficient and the 15% outgoing heals and the medkits you get from Survivalist. We're running mainly status effect and skill haste on this build. I think you get enough skill damage from a 6 skill tier that you don't really need to, and of course we're trying to run as much skill haste as we can and status effect for the duration of the ride form. As you can see, I've got a 12-second cooldown and a 10-second duration. It's got 6 ammo and it doesn't get used all too often, so you will have more than enough ammo, 2 to 3 shots per encounter. And as you can see, it's got 1.86 million foam health. It's fantastic and it takes quite a long time to knock down, and if enemies aren't aware of it or aren't prepared for it, you're going to get some easy kills and you're going to be laughing and they're going to be raging on the other side. With the terms of the build, we're using the improvised holster, of course, for the skill haste. I've got a nice god rolled one there. Took quite a while to roll and recalibrate, but I finally got it. We are using one Hanu also for the skill haste, and we're rolling skill haste and status effect on that. Same with the gloves, we're running 2 Wyvern for the skill damage and the skill status effect. We are running 1 piece China Light simply because it's the only piece I've got with efficient, skill haste and status effect, such high, which was going to allow us to roll efficient on, sorry. I've got another build that's a very similar archetype but rolls on skill damage, and I utilise Grouper. I'm going to post that in the future. You could probably change this up for maybe an extra Hanu, or I would probably put a Wyvern there and go Hanu for the gloves, simply because you get that yellow mod slot. It's going to be a little easier to find a Wyvern with efficient. But you could do that, and then you could also gain an extra 10% skill damage, which is going to pay benefits when you do this. You get 100,000, which isn't too bad, but I'm getting about 50,000 or roughly 47,000 on the damage over time, and because we have so much status effect rolled up with the Golan mask, of course we're getting 20% there. We're getting 10% crit hits, 45 damage, so I haven't got quite a lot of hit damage, but the beauty of this build is that we're running Pestilence. Pestilence is of course a fantastic PvP gun, but on top of the PvP capability it does, it stacks weapon damage over time, and because you're doing a lot of damage over time, this is going to synergize very well with the build. And of course it has a 6% damage to armor and damage to targets out of cover, which I'm trying to make up for, because you do lose that without running the Contractor's gloves and also the Fox's Prayers. And finally we're using the Super 90 SBS. I think it's the best Super 90 simply because it has slightly higher stability, I think it is. Again, we've got one roll which damage to armor, damage to targets out of cover, and Optimist. Optimist is probably the best talent you can run, is because when you do drop your stinger, turn around, jump in close, you're going to get that increased damage boost. And as you see in the video, when I was shooting with a shotgun, it does hit it, ignoring strength. If you are deciding to run a China Light, which you could decide to run a China Light, you could probably switch these over to the concussion grenades. You do get a smaller radius though, which is why I'm using the incendiary grenades, because I do apply quite a lot of damage over time with the burn and status that I've got rolled on the build. We've got the backup boomstick, of course, because it does so much damage, and we're doing damage to bleeding enemies. So if I do accidentally overshoot when I'm trying to swap weapons, I can switch over to that at least, and I will still get the 20% weapon damage bonus, and it hits pretty hard itself. You can just pretty much use that instead of the Optimist with a shotgun, and you do most base damage. Maybe use that first and then switch to the Optimist. That's also a good alternative to do as well, but I probably need a little bit more practice switching to my backup and then back to my secondary. You could also run, like I said, with the China Light, you could run maybe a Seeker Mine. As you can see, the Seeker Mine there does 447 damage, but of course you are getting that huge bonus to damage over time because of all the stats you've got rolled, and that'll pretty much one-shot a lot of the smaller builds, especially if they've took a little bit of damage off you first. And if you trap them with a foam, it's even more effective, because of course they can't go anywhere and they can't minimize the damage intake that they take because of it. I mean, that's pretty much it for the build. Thank you very much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, check out my channel and all my other build content.